Hello everybody, and it's here, and in this video I'll talk about how I made this little lighter. I think 3DCoat is great for creating a whole bunch of props, so we'll go over the whole process and let's get started. Okay, so here we start with the cylinder, and I'll just up the resolution of the cylinder. Change the material to something like a polymer green. Just cut the bottom. Cut the top. So activate the radial symmetry, and here I can just, I use the split tool back then, so I wanted to use the box hide. I realized that the density of the thing wasn't high enough, so I had to make it denser and then do the same operation again. So the curves, I changed the curves now, and they're a bit funny the way they behave. So now instead of using the curves, I use these like a combination of oval or ellipse tool, and then I just do a cut. And here I wanted to do a symmetry copy, so I did that little cut, and then I just copied it from the top to the bottom. So here I wanted to do the grooves on the side of the lighter, and I didn't know how to approach it exactly. So I was thinking either to use here the snapping grid and do these cuts, but then they did this really harsh rectangular cuts, and I wanted to make them a bit more rounded. So this kind of failed in the end, but there's a procedure here. I hit them using the snapping grid and then smooth it a few times, and I looked at it and it just didn't look good. It looked like a polymodeling, if you have a topology there and it's when you design the topology, which is like a lazy design. So instead of what, I duplicated that part and cut out everything. I made this little piece, which I then used later to cut out the grooves. So I'm just cutting it out, making this little angular bit. And again, this is the power of 3D code where you think in shapes. You don't think in in how do you going to extrude or anything like that. You just use one shape to cut out another shape. So you can see here, I'm actually typing in the numbers. So I was moving by 10 units up. So in this case, I got my precision, and then I combine them all together. It actually bugged out here, I think, and then combine them all together one by one, and cut it out. So I didn't like there was way too low res. I upped the resolution, double the resolution, and cut it out again. And I think the resolution was still low. No, actually, okay, it was fine. Then I just used the smoothing, and I didn't do universal smooth. I just smoothed those with the brush. Okay, there's a combination. I did a universal smooth and then use the brush to smooth it. So the cool thing about the voxel is that you can push those spots around. So you can see I've just minorly tweaked that bit, which is by moving it, posing and reposing. So here I reposed again. I just didn't want that to be too symmetrical. I wanted, the detail to be the bottom, so like 2/3. So 2/3 of this part is detailed and 1/3 is not. And I wouldn't say this design is really original. I'm actually Googled a whole bunch of lighters, and this time I decided to copy some stuff and combine it with other lighters I found online on pretty much on Amazon. So you can see here again the huge amazing thing about 3D code. It can do symmetry. It can pinpoint any part of your model and have symmetry around it. So I had a radial symmetry exactly on that little bump on the side, and then I managed to smooth it all around to get the bevel. So this is like a button piece. So I realized that I didn't have enough space and changed the positioning. Again, I really like the flexibility of voxels. I don't have that flexibility with surface mode, so I don't use the voxel mode that much because I cannot just scale the mesh up and down and twist it and move it around and keep the integrity. In voxels is more destructive than sorry, in surface mode it's more destructive than in voxel mode. So creating the parts. So the front is the button to open the lighter, to start the lighter. Then I'm creating this rotating element, a cylinder to rotate it around. You'll see me a lot like reusing a part and then like scaling it and making it into uniform. Then I'll have to cut out the sides to make to get a like sharp edge using the pose. For the light, I actually use the pose quite a bit. So I'm just scaling it up, moving it up. I just think about the shapes, hiding it, unhiding, and then I decided to go with the angular one anyway. And I think it's a really great example of where 3DCoat shines. We are dealing with fairly simple or fairly complex cylinder model, and it's just a breeze to do it. So at the moment, I'm still building the elements for the lighter. I'm not merging anything together. So you see that left orange piece, it will be my Boolean piece in the future. And this is another piece, it's like a lock for to hold it together. So then I rotate it and just cut out. So like I build most of my main volumes except for the insides of the lighter for trying to get this angular cut. In the end, I did redo it just with the curves, and I thought that I'd probably have to redo it, but I don't really like to use the curves because they kind of, they're not hard, but I like just to think in terms of shapes, and when you introduce the curves, you have to click more. And here, try to smooth this out, but it became way too smooth, like way too fragile, in my opinion. So yeah, I just redone it later. So just again changing the proportions a little bit. So here I open the cap. So I move the pivot point, I open the cap, and then pivot point stays in the place. I was using the snap rotate, so I can always bring the pivot point back. I know that it's like locked there. I will not lose the precision. And here I'm doing the tapering. Pretty much the most common way you do tapering is using the pulse tool and then essentially scaling it down and getting that cone shape. This is like a rubber ring to hold the moisture out. So here I added thickness to the shell, and it's a really powerful way to make thin shells inside 3DCoat. So now you can see I have a really, um, like I want to say organic looking, but really like really a manufactured piece uh, like that. With a thin shell and nice profiling. So I'm using here, if you're puzzled, I'm doing a lot of unhides from the top, from the side all the time. Unhide and check, unhide and check, voxel unhide. And here you can see I want to just move, I want to change the proportions. I want to move like that hole up. I had to do it from the side. It wasn't a perfect move for the voxels. I just had to smooth it a little bit later. But again, it's still there's so much power in that you can just change your model on a Vim. So I'm doing these burners. So I just found a photo of how these powerful gas lighters nowadays they have a triple burner setup. Kind of curious to see it in real life. I should probably buy one of those. They look really strong. You can see here, I kind of eyeballed the circle card, and it doesn't look perfect. And I just was like, yeah, whatever, just a small bit. Sometimes I go like that, I lose like that, and do eyeball something, and then I regret about it that I didn't try to do a more precise card. To do a more precise card, I'd have to make sure that my symmetry is in place, is been reset, and that I'm using the right radial symmetry, like 4 or 5 points radial symmetry, and then I'm doing the cut. That will get me a nice cut centered in the middle of the circle. Okay, so here I'm just making a holder for these guys. Again, something I found on some of the photos I was looking at. Not exactly this, but similar, like look like plastic, to be honest, like plastic setup. So combine that inside piece with the bottom cylinder. Just trying to get something intricate, because I knew it would be the main piece for the renders. And yeah, again, uh, I cannot praise the symmetry in 3DCoat enough. I can put the radial symmetry at 3, and now have this three-sided piece. It's really convenient to deal with it. So I needed to do this spark. I don't know how it's called. A gas spark, not thin, static spark that will ignite the gas. And you can see here I have backup volumes. I think there was some kind of issue I uncovered, and I reused the backup volume of that stainless cone. Might have cut something by accident and forgot about it. So it's good to have backup volumes all the time. And you can see on my right I have a few of those. So this was a little thing I saw on one of the photos that was like a help to keep this stuff in the lock. Here I wanted to use the pose tool to make that beat, but it didn't look any good, so I decided that it was a bad idea and deleted it. All right, now I'm using the curve tool. Had to make it much bigger, deleted the curves, and now I'm just drawing it all around this bit. I didn't like it was placed. Okay, place it just like that. Push it around a little bit using the middle mouse button, and pressed enter. This time I thought they were way too thick. So if something like way too thick, it's pretty easy. If you like run a smoothing operation, it will start to thin out. So I decrease the volume size like for 100,000, and then just start to smooth it multiple times, and it slowly starts to melt and dissipate and become thinner. So now I realized that that was the point when I had to start. I was at the final stage, so I started to combine everything together or cut through. So I'm just cutting some extra points here and there. So I'm doing a little cut here. So, you know, again, reusing the cylinder. So I wanted to have it as a housing for that piece. So I remove extra parts and then I'm combining it with that cylinder. Here I wanted to do the like a plug part where you would, if you want to recharge the lighter, you would plug it in right around here from the bottom. And I'm just using the radial symmetry and smooth brush to gently change the bevel in shape. Kind of, and I really enjoy the way when you smooth stuff, it looks so realistic. It looks exactly like the polymer would look like it's been produced, so slightly soft, slightly like uneven and natural. So I used the objectified hidden to get the inside bit made a different color. Now I'm just combining everything together and checking everything. So I'm putting this bit in place, cutting that bottom part, and just combining it. So I'm using the same volume to cut through the parts. So I'll just constantly duplicate it. Cutting it from the bottom. Then it still remembers my old symmetry settings. So right now it's maybe not perfectly like the pivot point will be slightly off, but because I remembered my old symmetry, I was able to do the cut in the middle of this cap without any problem. It's like a little pin which would help it to rotate around. So combine everything together, run a smoothing on it, and doing the uniform on the whole thing. You can see now it's the whole piece is about 14 million triangles, which is quite all right. I'm doing the fill, using the fill brush to kind of make it a bit more natural mold. And again, I mentioned it before, when you have these materials that look like polymer, like rubberized something, you start to treat them as they are rubberized plastic, and that helps you to make them more believable. So I think that 3D Code viewport is probably for me the best viewport out there right now. Right, I decided to do a little simple pattern here, just from hiding stuff from the top. I just thought that I liked some detail. They kept it really simple. Just another little pin so that the button rotate around that little pin to release the cap and such. Trying different materials. So then I decided to use a custom material. I wanted to paint the high poly texture. You can see it right now, but however, it was taking so much time to bake cavity and ambient occlusion for the high poly, like 10 minutes. So I just skipped it and I jumped into this section where I just modified the polymer head, that green one. I added modulated color by texture and added these textures, which you can then really quickly rescale, add some cavity, and get some really cool visuals super quick. And I just found some texture that is from unsplash.com. It's a website where you can get textures that are free for commercial use or any other user want to have it, personal and commercial. And yeah, it's so much fun to play around with them, this material. So I changed the fast color and everything. And then I just put it into rendering mode and changed that to environment map, started to render out a whole bunch of images. Thank you all for watching, and see you in the next video.